go. Here we go.
Let's make some Korean pear flavored alcohol. What we're gonna need first is obviously our pears. Pears. We're gonna need a jar to place them in. We'll need some sugar. Can't forget the soju. We're gonna clean our pears with some baking soda. And of course, we need a knife. First, we're going to need to wash our pears. So we'll take them out of our little protective thing here. Cold water into this bowl with our pears. We want to clean them thoroughly, and baking soda has a little bit of grit to it to get all of the dirt off, and we don't want any contaminants in our alcohol. So I'm getting some water so I can boil the water and clean our jar before we put the pears in there. You add it to our jar to sterilize our jar. Have a drink. Let's get to cutting. So as you notice, these are different from the pears that we have in the United States. This is a Korean pear, and same in the inside. Does have a little different taste to it, a little different texture. These are a little bit more of a harder texture. They're not as soft. This one is actually really soft right now because we've let it ripen quite a bit. Wow! Those things are flying! Now that we have our pears in the jar, we're going to add our sugar. Now on the sugar with these, it depends on the sweetness of the fruit. If your fruit is pretty sweet to begin with, which these are probably a little more ripe than I would have liked to start off with, then you might want to add a little less sugar. If your fruit is tart, you'll add a little bit more. We'll just kind of play around with it and see how much sugar we need. Unfortunately, we won't know for 3 months whether it's good or not. So I'm just adding this in. I'm reminded of the story about the rocks in the jar, where, and I'm gonna get this wrong, it's about life. And you have big rocks, in our case pears, and smaller rocks, which is our sugar, and eventually we're gonna have the soju. So in life, we're gonna have those big rocks or pears, and we want to put those in our jar first because those represent those big problems or big decisions that we have to make in our lives. And if we would have started with the sugar, we would have packed the sugar all the way up. We wouldn't have had room for all the pears. So then we add the pears, then we add our sugar, and the sugar represents all the little problems that we have in our life. As you can see, the little problems, we can sift down into the cracks between our pears. You didn't know you were getting a life lesson with this, did you? comes the soju. Okay, so for those of you who are not familiar with soju, this is a Korean alcohol. I think it's similar to vodka, but if I were to choose between drinking vodka and soju, I would choose soju. Soju doesn't have quite the bite, in my opinion, as vodka does, and it'll hit you a little bit later. It sneaks up on you. So anyway, this is unflavored, 35% soju, 35% alcohol soju. And they do sell it in these huge bottles because this is really quite the custom in Korea, is to make the fruit flavored alcohols, fruit flavored sojus. I have a friend who goes foraging into the mountains. He finds all kinds of berries and makes his own alcohols with it. All right, so we're gonna add the soju. And please tell me when I stop. Am I filling it up all the way? Okay, so in our story of life, this is the really small problems that we deal with. And you can see there's plenty of room for the teeny tiny stuff. All right, we got it filled up to the top. Okay, and the last step is to put this bottles. We can get these jars in Korea very easily. They're sold at our local Walmart type stores. This has as you can see, a nice large jar. It has the sealer in there, and then even a strainer for pouring the alcohol once we've let it sit for a few months. Thanks for coming on this journey with us and seeing how we make our Korean pear alcohol. See you in a month when we put them into bottles, and 2 months when we try it. Have a good night.